what's on your mind. You can talk it out. You got the time. You thought about it. Let's talk about it. No doubt about it. I got you. ValTrenda all day.
Welcome to the ValTrenda Show, your headquarters for melanated mental health. Thank you for joining us. Every Saturday at noon, we are here talking about mental health stuff, right? And hopefully you're going back. If you're not catching us live, you're going back and watch. You're going back to comment and share. If this is your first time on the ValTrenda Show, welcome. You come at a great time. So on this show, we talk everything melanated mental health, right? Everything melanated mental health. The objective is that we bring more awareness to our Black and Brown community about what's going on in the mental health community. So we just collide the two, because let's not act like it's not going on, right? So it's not just awareness, but it's education as well. So thank you. Now, I have to go into my favorite part. Well, all of it is my favorite part because I say that all the time, right? But this particular part is my favorite, my new favorite. It is the PPP, the post-pandemic plans. What are we going to do now that we're kind of coming out of this the COVID pandemic? It's been taking over for long enough. Now it's like, all right, COVID, but you got to go. Okay. So now that we're coming out of that, what do we do now? How do we react to the world? How do we take care of ourselves? So let me go back and remind you of the PPP Dream Team. That is our physical body, our outer body presentation, our heart and soul, and our mind. Now, this week, we're going to focus on our heart and soul. Men and women, listen, we have to take care of our heart. We only have one. We only have one heart. Now, we know that heartbreaks comes with the territory. It comes with the territory of being in love. It comes with the territory of having relationships. But sometimes we don't think about how much our heart really goes through. We put it through family members with mistreating us, friends crossing our boundaries, our spouses and our significant others just be rerunning the same played out game just endlessly. They just be rerunning it, right? Have we given our heart? Have we been giving our heart a chance to heal? Have we? During this time, during COVID, there was a spike of divorce applications and breakups. They just skyrocketed across the UK and across the world. Leading a British law firm called Stewards, they logged that 122%. There was a 122% increase in inquiries about divorce. That was just between July and October of 2020. That's compared to 2019, right? 122% increase in just that short amount of time. Now, you know what happened. Everybody they had to go home. They had to sit at home with each other, and they had to really learn who each other were. So let's face it. Some of these relationships didn't really last out of COVID, okay? All of the staying home for months and months and months, and just being stuck and quarantined in the house together. That showed you a whole new side of your little boo thing, didn't it? I bet it did, right? Well, suppose you were the one that did go through that breakup, or you did go through that divorce. What are you doing, or what have you done to heal? Divorce parties and boy-bye parties are becoming a thing. It's like a celebration to come out of all of this. But we're celebrating regaining our independency. And women, we'll cut our hair in a minute. And we rejoice in our newly found single relationship status, but are we still heartbroken? Has your soul been damaged? This is now the time to purify your soul, to cleanse your heart by ridding all of the negativity, all of the bitterness and hatred that you took on. So take that time and start to loving you. Begin that process of getting to loving who you are. Everything, okay? Everything is going to cater around how you treat you. How you love you, everybody has to respond to that. So if you don't love yourself, we can't expect other people to love us, okay? We have a great show lined up for you today. So do you have your ValTrenda Show mimosa? There is a ValTrenda Show mimosa. Let me give you the recipe. It's OJ, cognac, preferably Remy Martin, and a little splash of champagne. Boom, that's the ValTrenda Show mimosa. You need to go in your refrigerator and your cabinet and go get that right now, because we're going to be back with more of the ValTrenda Show, your headquarters for melanated mental health.
All right, Mocha Marbles, we're moving to Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. So please, please, please be sure to check us out. Bring family and friends. Get you a little, what in the morning, Corey?
We're going to add a little flavor to your morning blend, but just now.
Welcome back to the ValTrenda Show, your headquarters for melanated mental health. If you're just now joining us, today we're wrapping up our We Don't Talk About Bruno series, okay? We know in some family cultures, there are certain things that we just don't talk about, but now we're talking about them and we're doing something about them. So on today's show, we speak with the Honorable Tayati Hands on her experiences with all of our Brunos. So let's review all of our Brunos that we talked about. We talked about domestic violence, right? We went through sexuality, and we also went through molestation. And lastly, we visited, yes, we did. We visited suicide. We have to talk about these things. In our Black and Brown community, we're not glorifying them, right? We're just bringing them up. So it's not that thing that we shove under the rug anymore, but it is letting our children know, hey, your spouse, your partner should not be putting their hands on you. They should not be talking down to you derogatory daily and abusing your mental. We have to begin those conversations. We also have to talk to that little girl who was mistakenly touched or just violated by whoever, her aunt, her uncle, whoever, but not be afraid. Because a lot of times us in the Black and Brown community, we didn't know how to start those conversations. Our grandparents, our parents, they didn't know how to start them, but you do now. You ask your child, has anyone touched you inappropriately? And we can't be afraid of what the response will be. We just have to be prepared for what the response will be. So that's why on the ValTrenda Show, we're giving you these resources, right? All of these people who can help you, who can teach you how to begin these conversations. Same thing with sexuality and suicide. So today we talked to the Honorable Tayati. I was just so proud to interview a Black female judge. Okay, so go get your glasses of mimosas and check this out. Welcome, everyone, to the ValTrenda Show, your headquarters for melanated mental health. And of course, it's my favorite time because I get to speak to you all. I get to speak to our everyday Black and brown, beautiful people about your own personal experiences and whatever else we want to talk about. Today, I have the pleasure. I'm so honored, that I get to bring on a judge on my show. But I have the pleasure of bringing to you all the Honorable Tayati Hands. Hi, Tayati.
Hey, ValTrenda.
Now I don't have them all, because even on my own show, I just don't have them all. It's all professional until it's until it's not. So thank you very much for joining us. Now, you obviously have heard we've been talking about Bruno, and that Bruno is, has been different things that we don't really talk about in our Black and brown community. And so we're ending our series and you're coming on our show to kind of wrap all of those things up. So we're talking about domestic violence, we're talking about sexuality, we're talking about molestation, and then lastly, we're talking about suicide. And you somehow have some type of connection to all of them. So let's start with talking about domestic violence. Like, I know you're a judge, you see a lot of different things, but tell me your personal experience about, that particular Bruno and why we don't talk about him in our Black and brown community.
Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for allowing me to join you this evening. It is my honor. Everybody don't get to hang with ValTrenda now. So I'm just so excited to be here. I love this entire concept, right? That we don't talk about Bruno, which, by the way, my kids love that song, as do I. But this is really important, just starting with domestic violence. And I'm also honored to begin with that topic because I am, I guess you could say, one of the kind of residential experts on domestic violence in North Carolina. And I train our magistrates, judges, clerks, and prosecutors across the state to understand domestic violence and better handle it, for lack of a better term. So as to our community, domestic violence in many communities is kind of the thing you don't talk about, right? It's one of those secrets. It's one of those behind closed doors. And I think in our community specifically, many of us were taught what happens at home stays at home, right? Many younger girls are taught you don't discuss your marriage, you don't discuss your relationships with anybody, right? Most women that I know, when they got married, mama, grandma, and others were like, you keep your business to yourself, which is good advice, mind you. Nevertheless, when it comes to domestic violence, it knows no color, it knows no socioeconomic status, right? It knows no status whatsoever. So I think that what we're finding out is that people are learning that it is something we have to talk about. So with that said, I see it, of course, right? I primarily preside in domestic violence court. I've been on the bench for over 13 years now, and that is the court that I have presided in the most. I'm one of those strange birds. I love that courtroom because I do have an opportunity in that courtroom to preside, but also to assist, not just the victims of domestic violence, but also when I have a batterer in front of me, I have the opportunity to not even really assist is the right word, but to make sure that we put things in place for rehabilitation, that we put things in place for batterers intervention when necessary. And studies show, do you know how many times the person leaves before they actually are off and gone for good?
No, please tell me. 7 times?
7 times. So what I train is that when we see, Keisha come back needing the justice system, right? And we can recognize her because we've seen her there before. We might not be happy about that. Same goes that if your mother or your aunt or your niece, that she went back to John and everybody can't stand John. What do you do? People are angry sometimes. People are frustrated when they can see John for who he is, or for that matter, they can see Maria for who she is, because not all batterers are men, although a high percentage are, right? The reality is, what if you just understand that it takes time to leave? And what if you just understand that they need our support while they're mustering up the courage to leave? And if we know it's 7, maybe if you know it's time number 3, you figure out what you can do to support her to keep your friend, your family member safe. And I think that the more we talk about it, which is what you're doing, right? The more we bring it into the light, the more people will understand that it's not just you. It's not just one person. There are many people struggling with either physical or verbal abuse.
That's amazing, because most times, I'm glad you mentioned about the women too, that women are batterers also, and that they have these issues where whatever happened in their lifetime, they felt that the need that, they need to beat on their husband or, either physically or emotionally. Now tell me, when it comes down to let's switch gears here and talk about the sexuality part, right? Like when we're talking about Bruno, we're talking about sexuality, in the Black and brown community, we don't really express, or explain to our children what sexuality really is. Whatever type of sexuality they identify with. We don't really say, hey, you have a choice of all of these different types of sexualities and you can pick one. Like nobody really does that, right?
Oh no, that is definitely not a part of it. I don't even think that's a part of even the incoming generation. I think the newest generation, I guess we would say millennials and a little bit younger than that, they're much more comfortable, I think, much more fluid. But I think it is still standard in our community as you a boy, you're supposed to like a girl. You're a girl, you're supposed to like a boy. Now, some of that is just mainstream culture, right? And I think that mainstream culture, we see it shifting little by little. We're seeing a lot more mixing, if you would, of gender and fluidity and things of that nature. But I do think that in our community, it's still, masculinity is still very much tied to the male identity. And I think that people perceive homosexuality, especially in males, as something that is less than and something that is not masculine, something that is not strong. And so I do think that just culturally, we really struggle with how to accept people's decisions, or, whether you believe it's a decision or a choice or, birth that way. I certainly have members of my family that I have zero doubt in my mind that's how they were born. I believe that. I know that. But I do think that we have made much progress.
I do believe, I agree with you. I totally agree. Now tell me, let's connect those two, right? How often are you seeing same-sex relationships in the courtroom for domestic violence?
It has increased significantly.
Really?
Now, significantly. Interestingly enough, North Carolina did not have provision for same-sex couples to be able to get a domestic violence order of protection, also known as a restraining order. The personal relationship necessary to get one of those did not include same-sex couples. So what would happen is we would get people coming in who needed protection, and there was nothing that I could do because that's not what the law provided. Now, a case came not that long ago, and I won't bore you too much with the legal portion, but at least now I'm able to enter orders because the Court of Appeals, our higher court, said that's not equitable, right? That this is not equity, because of course that is a personal relationship. And so I'm seeing a rise in those cases, and I'm glad though that I'm able to serve them because they deserve to be served just like anyone else. One of the things that I'm running into, right, is that you see she, her, hers is next to my name. And one of the things I'm running into is I've always, out of respect, called my, Miss Jones, right, Mr. Johnson. And I realized that just because based on how I'm seeing that person, they may or may not prefer that. So I've started saying Plaintiff Johnson, Defendant Jones, because I don't know. I don't want to have to even offend someone with asking unless you're going to ask everybody how you want to be addressed, right? You don't want to start picking out who you say, how do you want to be addressed tonight, right? The
Very
same way
true.
you want to ask, just because they are Latino, you don't want to say habla inglés, right? Because I speak Spanish fluently, and every once in a while I've said, oh, habla inglés. They're like, yes, I speak English. I'm fine with that.
Right.
But, similarly, we're just seeing a lot of changes that we have to be aware of and sensitive of.
Wow. And that's amazing because, you never would have thought that. And I think the reason why that wasn't included, this is my personal opinion, I'm nobody, but, one of the reasons why it may not have been included in the legal system before when it comes down to domestic violence with same-sex couples is because, again, we don't talk about those things. Those are the things we don't talk about. So if we haven't been talking about them all this time, it's definitely not going to be in the court system because it's one of those hush hush things, right? So those are those things that we have to do better with. And I'm so glad that you've said that now our court system, and at least in your area, is now they have developed systems and put systems in place to protect everybody, no matter what they identify with or as or anything like that, right?
That's exactly right.
Good. So let's go to a quick break. We're going to be right back. We're going to talk to Tayari about what else she connects with. She's been the one that says, you know what? Oh, yeah, I identify with that. I talk about that. I know this. I know that. So we're going to be right back and talk more with the Honorable Tayari Hands.
Hi fashionistas, it's Stephanie J here.
And I'm Liz Everett.
Join us on the next episode of The Fab Lab,
where we're all about fashion and the art of beauty.
Streaming live Saturdays at 11.
Right here on the Mocha Media Network.
Welcome back to the ValTrenda Show, your headquarters for melanated mental health. And I'm here yet again with the Honorable Tayari Hands. And we're wrapping up our series of We Don't Talk About Bruno. And we're just kind of going through from her personal standpoint, and also from like a legal standpoint, what does she see in the courtroom about all these different Bruno's coming left and right. We're about to put a stop to to us not talking about Bruno. So one of the conversations we had, Tayari, earlier in the later part of this season was molestation. And we had two people on that was talking about, one female and one male, that were talking about their experience with molestation and again, why we don't talk about it. So from your opinion or standpoint, when it comes down to molestation, like people who are violated as a child and they're kind of forced into silence by their perpetrator, right? By that person who violated them. Tell me about like what you see in the courtroom or just in life in general, how that affects people just growing up,
I'll tell you, I think it's so heartbreaking because molestation is one of those things that we all know it changes a child forever. One of the things that I do as my role as a judge is involuntary commitments. And sometimes we have children who have been involuntarily committed, and we as judges have to preside over the hearing to determine whether or not they are permitted to go home or need to stay. So it's been my experience that when a child is violated, especially, of course, right at any young age, any minority age, it just changes their trajectory. They're often sworn to silence, right? They feel like they are violating something with that person. They feel like they're violating something, I think, with themselves. And even though it's not their fault by any stretch of the imagination, I think it's been my experience that a lot of these individuals really do blame what happened on themselves. We have seen cases where the children have been violated, right, by someone in the family that the family sides with, right? I've seen stories, and of course, I'm not talking about specific cases because I'm not permitted to, but I've certainly seen situations, not in my role, where the mother of the child sides with the perpetrator because the perpetrator is someone that she has an affinity for, right? And I think this is an easy one on why we're not talking about it. This Bruno, people are just in denial. And I don't know how they say denial, I have learned, is bondage. That's one of the things I pray about when I pray over my children. I pray that they don't grow up in a cloud of denial, because I've learned as you come across people who do live in denial, that's strong. That bondage is strong.
It is.
So sometimes people feel like if you sweep things under the rug, right, it's good. But honey, that rug gets bigger and bigger, and good luck walking over it.
Exactly.
I think this, again, it's just all tied together with the mental health, and with in the Black community, we've not always been as comfortable talking about not just mental health, but the things that, contribute to mental health issues.
Yeah.
And again, though, I think it's getting better. We see the progress, right? We see the conversations being had. We see people coming out and speaking their truth. And I think that's the only thing we can continue to do, so that folks know that it is not your fault. And that if and when you come forward, there's going to be people there to support you.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing that. And sometimes, as it relates to, molestation, sometimes those particular children grow up to be adults that are dealing with so many mental health issues, such as depression and anxiety. But let's kind of stick around depression, right? Because those that do deal with things like that, not all of them, some of them get help, and some of them come out and they get delivered, and they come out of that bondage mindset that you were talking about. But some of them aren't. That bondage becomes too much, and it can lead to our last Bruno, which is suicide. And suicide is definitely one of the things that I have honed in on in one of my own personal education, right? I've gone to different courses to get certified as a national suicide prevention specialist, to kind of help talk people off that bridge. I've gone to numerous courses to be able to help people with that. So tell me about your experience. We talked earlier on our show with suicide, we talked about Chesley, who unfortunately, who lost her life to suicide. And you personally knew her, yes?
I did. Chesley, and you see it, everyone says it, but it is so the truth. She was such a light. Chesley practiced law here in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I remember when she was a brand new attorney, and I met her, and I was, this woman is beautiful. And it was before she got her crowns, right? And I will never forget, once she was Miss North Carolina, I saw her at an event. I said, you know what, Chesley, I have an idea for us. I want to do a project. And she said, you want to do a project with me, Judge Hands? And I just cracked up. I said, I love it, because she has no idea. I know she's about to skyrocket. She's still kind of grasping the concept. And from there, she skyrocketed. With that said, who knew?
Right.
Who knew? I mean, even her own mother came out with an article, right, to say that she had only recently revealed that she was struggling with high functioning depression. And I tell you, this was such an eye-opener for so many. You saw the comments like, she can't be depressed. She's too pretty. Or, well, we got to check what really went on. Something had to go on because she's too pretty. Beauty has nothing to do with what people might be struggling with and what people might be dealing with. My mother, a lot of folks don't know, but that is how I lost my mother. I was 3 years old.
Wow.
I don't remember her. I believe, based on the stories I've heard from my family, that she was struggling with postpartum depression and had some issues after her pregnancy with me. And I think she had some possible dependence on the pain medication from some of the issues she had with the delivery of me, should I say. And she attempted about 3 to 6 months before. She was successful a month before my 3rd birthday. And so I have lived my life, I would say, kind of in the shadows of suicide, right? Understanding what its consequences are. And that was in the 70s. So this was before, I think, there was many conversations about postpartum, and certainly not in our community, right? Query if a doctor ever even identified that, especially for a 17-year-old Black woman, right? Because she was 17 when she had me.
Wow.
So I see There are all kinds of cases that touch on there's an attempt, to commit suicide or threats to commit suicide. But Chesley gave us an opportunity. I've heard many, many more people talking about this because what I think is directly tied to the depression in African American community, and especially with Black women, is this fallacy that we're strong, that we can break through, that we're going to get it done no matter, come hell or high water. At some point, we got to have the real conversations about this is tough. I am sad. I don't know what to do. I don't have the answers to these things. And if we're not able to start saying some of these things, bottom line, we've got to be willing to say, I am not okay. If we're too busy trying to pretend to be okay and pretend like we're so strong, that is not the answer.
And it will continue to, excuse me, you got me all choked up. It will continue to be that way if we don't ever talk about it. We should have group therapy sessions where we are with our girlfriends, when we are over wine and brunches. Brunch is the thing now. So when we do go to brunch and have our mimosas, girl, are you okay? Or sometimes it's okay to tell that friend who you see as Superwoman, it's okay to chill out. You know that, right? You don't have to be sometimes it's okay to tell your girlfriend that. Tell your girlfriend, have you been checked lately? Have you had a moment to relax your mind? Have you had a self-care moment? Have you had moments where you unpacked all the trauma that you've experienced in your life? Sometimes us as girlfriends, we'll throw a divorce party or a boy bye party or something like that, but we don't really have those moments to say, it sucks. Divorce sucks. It sucks. You're sad. You got kids. You got all these things. But these are some of the things that do relate to depression and things like that, that push us. And I'm so glad that you pointed out, us as Black women, we are so strong, and we are. I think we're one of the strongest beings on earth. I really do believe that. But I also believe that because we are so tough, we don't know how to ask for help. Do you agree?
I so agree. And let me tell you, if I can give you a quick example.
Yeah.
I went through a season, here recently, and there was at least 2 to 3 months that I allowed myself, because I've done the work to know when that has to be done, but I allowed myself to admit I'm sad, right? I don't feel good today. I don't. And what I recall though, is that when I got phone calls, I kind of was in a little bit of a shell, and people, how things going, girl? Not so good, right? I'm not so good right now. I distinctly recall that 90% of the people that I talked to were so busy trying to pull me out of it, instead of instead of understanding where I was and trying to make sure that I had the support. People are not comfortable with discomfort. They're not comfortable, but I've done the work to know that it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to be sad. I've taught my babies, my sons, it's okay to be sad, right? Yeah. But we've got to stop trying to drag people out of it, because you know what? Then people will learn to lie. People learn to say I'm good because they know it's not going to be honored anyway, right? Yeah. We've got to live our truths. And that's why I said I haven't done it yet. I was going to start the hashtag, I am not okay. Or it's okay not to
be okay. Correct. That is so good. So Tayani, thank you so much for sharing your personal experiences with all of my Brunos. You're a unicorn. But to be able to, speak on all of them, some of them personal, some of them what you see in our Black and Brown community, and the tip of the iceberg is this is just the beginning of these type of conversations that we're having. I promise, and I dedicate myself to this work, that, you don't be fooled when y'all start seeing my show on Tubi and Netflix and all these different type of shows, because the word has got to get out there. So you yourself, to be able to help us spread the word on all these different things, I am eternally grateful. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today, Tayani.
Thank you for being what you are to our community, right? Because if you're not starting the conversations, we might not be having them. So I'm so grateful to you for keep giving us authentic space that we can feel comfortable in and talk about Bruno.
Yes, thank you so much. Everyone else, you stay right there. Actually, you might want to go take a breather because that was a lot, right? So go refill your mimosa and come right back to the ValTrenda Show, your headquarters for melanated mental health. Happy Women's History Month and happy birthday month to moi. We would like to point out and give our major She Rose tribute to a very special woman in history. This woman is an American singer, a musician, an arranger, a songwriter, and a civil rights activist. She changed her name to her stage name to keep her family members from recognizing her from singing the devil's music back in the day. She made history by recording over 40 albums and also by being one of the most profound speakers of civil rights meetings and more. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Eunice Wayman, which we may also know as Miss Nina Simone. Welcome back to the ValTrenda Show. Now it is one of my favorite times. I know all of them are my favorite times, but this is your favorite time too, because you get to share your hashtag moments, hashtag happy moments with me. Now, I normally share my hashtag happy moments with you, but it's so exciting when I get hashtag moments from you all, because it's just enlightening to see that other people are just as happy. So you, our viewers, are sharing those hashtag happy moments with me. Check out the Honorable Tayati Hands hashtag happy moment.
Hey, this is Tayati. And what makes me happy is music. I feel like music is, it's like the universal unifier. I love music. I like to sing it. I like to dance to it. Me and my boys, we playing music throughout the entire house all morning when we're getting ready. And I guess it's just a part of the quality time. That's my love language. And you can never go wrong when you're playing music, dancing to music, and bringing it into your life. And especially when I'm cooking. That's my happy place.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the ValTrenda Show. I hope that you thoroughly enjoyed what you've seen so far. So far, we've been talking about my own personal self-care journey and going to the gym. You guys have seen me. You guys have laughed at me. I don't care. I kind of do, but it's okay. So sometimes unforeseen traumas happen to a few of us. Sometimes monkey wrenches get thrown in our schedules. And that's what happened to me this week. Okay. I'm not stopping my journey. I'm still on my journey. But this week, there were a lot of things that happened. So I couldn't get to the gym because I had to extend my hours of working for this week. So I didn't get a chance to get into the gym. But I want to let you all know that, sometimes in life, those things happen, right? We start a journey. It could be self-care, healthcare, mental health, whatever journey we start. And again, that monkey wrench is just kind of thrown in and we can't do anything about it but tend to it. So again, that's what happened with me, but don't worry. I'm going to be back with my journey. So let me tell you what I did do for this week. for my self-care? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. I just had time to shower and get in the bed, get my hot tea, and maybe watch 20 minutes of TV and then just get some rest. I had to, because I will burn myself out. And I know you guys can relate, right? We've got kids, we've got all these different kind of things. And sometimes we just don't feel like doing nothing. And guess what? That's fine. It's okay. If you've been going, you're trying to better yourself. Sometimes it is okay to take that break, to say, I'll get back next week. And that's what I did. So next week, you got to watch, because now y'all got to go, well, let me see if she going to actually. Yes, I am. So you'll catch me next time on my self-care journey. But we're going to be right back with more of the ValTrenda Show. You stay right there. It's the ValTrenda Show, your headquarters for melanated mental health. Hi, everybody. Now listen, I should say bye, everybody, because it is the end of our show. Now, our We Don't Talk About Bruno series was very different, right? It was different, but yet very informative. I just want us all to take all of those tips and tools that we took in during that series and just make sure that we're spreading that information throughout our communities, throughout our families, because Bruno cannot no longer, that's a double negative, take over our lives. Those things that we don't talk about in our Black and Brown communities, we have to start bringing them to the light. It's been an honor today to sit with you and spend your Saturday afternoon with me. I'm so honored. But until next time, don't let anything or anyone steal your happiness. All right? Be kind to one another. Show yourself grace. And as always, show love.